Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Welcome back, gorgeous visionaries. It's so good to have you here with me today, and of course, our super gorgeous guest. Now, as you all know, my thing is purpose over profession. Now, I strongly believe that you can do a gazillion professions, any darn thing you love doing, but if it isn't driven by purpose, your life purpose, you'll search for a long time for something to fill that spot that's craving fulfillment. Now, you may be working in a job because you were told to work in it because it was a good thing, or you may even have been a teacher all your life, which kind of hit the spot, but then you wake up one morning and think to yourself, is this it? There's a huge gap between being grateful for what you have and being fulfilled by what you do. Now, our next guest, who is the epitome of loving life and living it, went through almost the similar experiences. Her career spans over many years as a highly successful and profiled television presenter, TV producer, designer of product lines through to home furnishing. She's authored 9 books and is here today to chat to us about her new 10th book, which is currently number 4. Well done with her. And Penguin Publishing. She runs a syndicated newspaper column, is a motivational speaker, and owns a television production company. She wears many, many, many hats. You could even say the ultimate entrepreneur, as she's not only built businesses, but created powerful, legendary brands that influence generations. But the biggest change was changing herself. Because as you all know, I'm an advocate for you being the change you want to see in the world. And that's what our next guest has implemented. Just like her favorite animation character, Dumbo, who followed his dream to be who he was born to be, despite what others said he could or couldn't do. He did it. Which is our next guest's favorite quote too. Just do it. Yes, please. As you know, business and life are so beautifully intertwined, and just as our next guest was the first to create a decorating show in North America that transforms and changes the facade of interiors, she too learned to transform and change her own life interiors, to live a life that is filled with life purpose and that impacts others. Her soul group to leap into their own life chapters and be the change that they want to see in the world. I am thrilled to have our guest here with me today. So please help me welcome her, the one and only Debbie Travis. Hello, Debbie.
Hello. Thank you for that introduction. I'm exhausted listening to myself. Tire myself out.
Well, thank God, because there are a lot of people that wish they would actually have that power and that tenacity that you have. Were you born with it?
I think I was always a doer. I come from a very ordinary family in the north of England, and I think I was always very busy, and I come from quite a big family, so it was like just my job was to keep out of everybody's way. So I was out and about like my generation were doing stuff. And I left home very early. I left home at about 16 and headed for the big city lights for London. And look back and think, I don't know how I did it. If my kids did that, I'd be like, I had like £4 in my pocket and the bus fare. But that's what we did in those days. I didn't come from a university background. And I just said, my mum said, well, yeah, when you're 16, you can go. And I was on the bus the next day.
Oh my God. And then what did you do when you were 16? You landed up in London and then?
Well, I went to London, met a girl in the street, ended up living with her. We shared a flat together, and I modeled for the first, I guess, for about 8-9 years. And that gave me a lot of confidence because I went all over the world. I lived in Hamburg and Tokyo, and I think by the time I was 20, I'd been in the places like, again, my mum didn't really care. That's nice, dear. Like I was going down to the shop. Yeah. And then I got fascinated. I did a lot of television commercials, and I was living in Amsterdam, and I was working on, I wasn't a supermodel or anything like that, with racks of hideous clothes and stuff. And I was working on a commercial, and there was a woman there. She was very old. She was about 25. And I thought she was amazing because she was walking around with a yellow clipboard and bossing people around, like, you over here, I want this here. And I remember asking somebody, well, what's her job? And so she's a producer. I'd like to be a producer. How do you do that? And it was basically hang around the right pubs in London and where the television and film industry were and get an internship, which I did. Then I ended up I worked for the BBC for a while and all the big networks. And it was very low down, sweeping the floors. I started my own little production company, and we ended up going to Cannes. There's the Cannes Film Festival, and then just before is the television festival called MIP. And I went there on the first night, met a guy, married him a few weeks later and moved to Canada. So ultimate professional, of course. And I ended up in Montreal, and I didn't speak French, and I couldn't get a job in television because there wasn't any English stations at that time. And the paint finishing craze was going on in Europe, which was the faux marble and faux wood and sponging and ragging and dragging. And I'm sure it was the same everywhere. And everybody was kind of slapping paint all over their walls. So I had a friend who was doing it in London. So over the phone, she kind of taught me how to do it. And I did my house. We bought our first home. And we start making friends, and I think I was pregnant straight away. Within 18 months, I met a guy, moved countries, and had 2 babies.
Oh my God.
So, when you have kids, you meet people, and people would say, oh, I like that. Can you come and do my house? And within a very short time, I had this painting business going. And then I did this for a few years, even had a school where I taught designers, and I taught like people in New York who did these beautiful window displays in department stores like Bloomingdale's and things. And I was getting, like, my kids were turning a bit stupid from their mother smelling of paint thinner and arsehole and all this stuff. It's called over there, and paint. And so I thought, why don't I? It was the era of the how-to videos, like Jane Fonda and exercise and all this, the VHS. And I'm sure some of your audience don't even know what that was, but it was the thing you slotted into a screen.
I remember.
Yeah, before Netflix. So I made a video called Decorative Paint Finishes Made Easy. I don't know where they are today, but I sold over 1 million copies. And I ended up being invited on radio shows, chat shows, and it was the beginning of the explosion of the DIY kind of phenomenon. It was the mid-90s. And I got invited on all these shows, and eventually a chat show here said, have you ever thought of turning this into a television show? Because cable was starting and they were desperate, I guess, for programming. And I was like, who would watch a television show about paint? Anyway, I started a show called The Painted House, and I wore these little overalls. And the show, we took it back a year later to Cannes, where we met. We sold 80 countries, and it was on all over the world. And then I did 5 different series after that. So, and then everything else kind of, because of that, kind of fell into place. The books, the decorating books, and the product, and the columns, and all that. I guess it was timing. But it was, people loved it because you didn't have to be talented. Anybody could take a spot. People are still trying to chip this stuff off today. Anybody could draw this. And you didn't have to be an artist to like paint a picture, but you could send the kids off at the weekend, put the radio on and slap stuff all over your walls. And it became a phenomenon. And of course now there are thousands, there's whole networks just do decor. And yeah, so it was my career.
That's amazing. During the time, like you mentioned now, like, did you yourself, when you were doing the painting, close the doors and tell everyone to bugger off and just go into your own little world whilst you were painting? What were you thinking of then? Were you like, what the hell am I doing?
Well, I don't think I did think. My husband had kind of gone bankrupt at the time. He told me he was really rich when I met him and married him. That was true. So he was actually in the television industry, buying the rights to movies and things. Like all businesses, they tend to have a 10-year cycle. And of course, video collapsed, television came to its forefront. And of course, now then CDs, and now it's things like Netflix and stuff. So things keep changing and you have to be very nimble. So I was really the breadwinner in those years. And I don't think I thought about anything. Just like some of the things were so easy to do. And I charged a lot of money because nobody else could do it. So I'd wait for the homeowner to go out and then get a book out and read, and then I'd come back and be like, yeah, I'm just still mobilizing. And so it was kind of interesting. But I never really did it after that, design in other people's houses, because the television show, I'd never been on TV before. But I guess my confidence from being a model, which if you can do that, you can do anything. I was very good. But when I started the television show, which began, I think, in 97, I actually had a teleprompter, and it would be like, pick up your brush and stir the... I was terrible. And then I would say, while we were waiting for the sets to change and things, I had a British art director, and I remember saying something like, well, you know, crackle finish, it's like a bad marriage. It's like one layer doesn't like the other layer and it all cracks. And she said to me, she was a bit of an old boot, but she said to me, if you could do that on the camera, you'd be very good. And I did. And then so I let my own personality come, and I became a household name, and it was great. So I've never found it hard being on television. But what I did that was clever, or my husband was, we owned it all. So we didn't work for the networks. We created our own production company. We owned the shows. And we still do today. We make a lot of crime shows now. We've gone from decorating to murder. So
all in a day's life of marriage. It's all fine.
It's really funny because you go in my production office, which I don't do a lot because I'm in Italy most of the time, but I go in and it's now like not what color they painted the walls or the color of the icing on a cake or something. It's like, where did they find the head? So almost prosthetics all over the office. It's like, oh, there's some feet on that desk. So our office has changed a lot. It's quite funny. So yeah, and then I did that for, over 20 years. And then I started to have a sense of deja vu. I mean, I love the television industry with a passion, and I've done it, like I said, for a very young age. But I had this feeling in every meeting that I'd been here before, and I probably had. Same chair. And I started it wasn't the fault of the young people taking over, but there was nothing else I could learn. I'd reached the pinnacle of my career, I think. And I started to worry that I wasn't passionate, like you said at the beginning, you know, what you believe in. I didn't feel passionate about it. I didn't really care. I could do it in my sleep. I was a leader. I was a pioneer of cable television. We built a successful production company of other people's production, not just mine. But I was bored. I mean, really, put it lightly. And so I went to Thailand on my own. I rented a little hut on a beach. I'd never done anything like this in my life. And I had a very strange experience because they had a spa there, and they had it's like a sauna, a dry sauna. And I'd never been in one. And it's a bit like getting in a coffin. And I got in this thing, and this little Thai lady had said, if you get thirsty, you're going to be in there for 20 minutes, come out and get some water. Well, of course, after 10 minutes, I was like dying. So I came out, and there was a whole bunch of magazines all about Kim Kardashian's bottom and stuff I'd read on the phone, and nothing else except a book called Happiness, or something about happiness. So I thought, well, I hate all this stuff, but I'll read that. So I go back in this sweatbox. And by the time I came out, I was crying so hard, like, oh, I hate my life. And you know, when I realized something was very wrong. And the next day I was flying back to London, and I was sitting on the plane next to a Thai monk with the whole thing, gowns on and bright yellow, beautiful pajamas or whatever they wear. And I think he was a bit tired of me crying, and finally asked me what was wrong. And I'm so miserable. I said, I've got everything, and I just don't feel like seeing enough of my husband. I'm not seeing enough of my children. I want to see my friends and everything. And he said, but then you should change. And I said, well, I'm so busy. And he said something remarkable. And he said, then don't be so busy. And then he turned around and went to sleep. And then I really thought about that. And I thought, it's that simple. Change it. Don't be so busy. So as you do, I went to Italy and I bought a house. So at the same time, I'd fallen in love with Tuscany, as many people do. And we had this little dream. Am I talking too much?
That's
Everybody's gone out. Oh, she's still there. But we'd had a dream that one day we would buy a little home in Italy. My kids had left home and doing their own jobs now. So I thought, well, every time I went to Tuscany, I felt amazing. It was the food and the wine and the people and the views and the architecture. And I thought, what if I shared it? Instead of just buying a holiday home and I have to talk to my husband for the next 20 years, what if I got a property and I shared it with other people? So I rented a place because we didn't have a property, and I mentioned it on a stage in Vancouver, I think, and I was full the next day. So we started this retreat. I did it with my best friend, and that was in 2009. It was nearly 10 years ago. And it was a runaway success. The villa was very tatty. The furniture was revolting. We made it as nice as we could, but these women didn't care. And they came on their own, and they came away with 17 new friends. And they never stopped talking. It was that we did yoga, and it was the chattiest yoga class you could ever imagine. They talked all the way through lunch, all the way through dinner. And two women went into business together, and it changed lives, and it changed my life. So in the meantime, we found a property And we started, it was a 700-year-old ruin. It was horrible. It was such a mess with pigs running around and stuff. So we spent 5 years renovating this into the most glorious thing. And in 2015, we opened our own place. And we do about 10 retreats a year. And they come from all over the world. And women come for every age. And they come to talk and cry and laugh and drink. And drink and drink and drink. And it's a kind of all-inclusive, so they don't have to think about anything. And we're like their mums for a week. And they turn into badly behaved 14-year-old girls. I mean, it's like girls' night out. You know that amazing feeling you have when you go on a girls' night out and you come home and you think, why don't we do this every week? It's a year to get a bunch of girlfriends together and go out. So it's that wonderful feeling. And that's what it is for a whole week. Yeah, it's changed my life. And now I've written a book about people's next chapters because this is my next chapter. And it's changed how I think, how I do things. We do men as well, but mostly it's for just women because women on their own are different, you know?
Yeah.
And it's remarkable. And I heard so many stories from these women.
How are they reconnecting versus changing? Because there's a difference between the two. And the reconnection comes first before you actually do the change.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you can actually see the cogs in the wheel turning in their head. I think it's a bit like when you have a massage. Halfway through the massage, your mind is completely emptying out. And these ideas come to you. And of course, you can't really ask the massage guy for pen and paper. It's like that, not worrying about anything. I'll have CEOs of companies going, do I need to wear shoes for the bike ride? Yes, you need to put your shoes on. And everything becomes simple. And what I've done is I've designed it. I've traveled all my life for work, and it's a lonely, hard world traveling for women. I've stayed in some real shit boxes, and I wanted this place. You know, when you're traveling, you can get irritable. I want everything to be perfect. So it's not designed like a Ritz-Carlton or something with lots of bling. It's designed beautifully, but it's got the best linens, wonderful towels, beautiful decor, but it's simple. Every single person has their own garden and their own entrance, so they can be quiet, but then they can join the noise at dinner and things like this. And it's everything I would want if I was a guest. And most people cry. I'd say 95% burst into tears because they've saved up to come. It's been on their wish list. It might have been something, an article about it stuck on their fridge for a year. People book 2 years in advance. It's incredible. It's something that they've dreamt about. And now they're here, and it's bigger and better and more beautiful than they could possibly imagine from a website or something like that. And they know that this week is going to be for them, and it's going to change them. So to answer your question, I think you see this change growing, and then it stays with them afterwards. And I get emails every day of people saying, I don't know if you remember me, but I came 2 years ago, and I just want you to know I've left him. Or I left him. And it's rejuvenating, but not in a way that, like a spa is rejuvenating, but then you're back on the treadmill the minute you leave that spa. This kind of allows you to get that nugget, that seed of ideas out and share it. It's very non-judgmental. We do a forum every day at around 6 o'clock, which is just another excuse for another drink, really. It's like and drink's amazing because it does loosen people up, and people are quite frightened to talk in public with strangers, but this is what gets people talking, and they'll tell stuff. Like I had a woman, I can't get over it. Last year we had a woman, she'd been married for 28 years, and she said, I'm here because 6 months ago I woke up in the morning and my husband of 28 years or something was staring at me with a very strange look on his face. And I said, whoa, what do you look at? And he said, do you know, I don't know what it's called, you know, in Europe, but he said, you know what? You're past your expiry date or sell by date. You know, the kind of thing you see on milk.
Yeah.
What? And she said he walked out and I never saw him again. So, of course, everybody cried and then laughed. But so, the cruelty of it, and I'm sure lots of blokes think that, and I think a lot of women think that too. But the cruelty and the shock to the system of something like that. And she said, I'm here to mend and start again. And she did. And she changed her job. She changed everything. But by sharing that, and she said, it's the first time I've told anybody because I was so ashamed. She said, I haven't been able to look in a mirror. And she was only like 51. And she said, the fact that he actually was thinking that, you've expired, love. I'm getting another one. So we get lots of stories like that. And we get amazing stories too. And it's fascinating to watch people. We take photos of them when they arrive. and they look completely different. Forget having a facelift or a Botox or whatever people are doing. These women, it's happiness. It's all over them. It's wonderful. And they make change. And they may not make it immediately. Obviously, you can't make huge changes in a week. But you can change your mindset. And that's what it's about. It's about enough. And that's what happened to me. There's a great Italian word, which is basta. And it means enough. And that's how I felt. The television industry will go on without me. I still don't have no regrets. It's a career I'm really proud of, but it was enough. I was just saying, it's not easy, to bridge two worlds. Tuscany in July is stunningly beautiful. In February, in the pouring rain with 80 builders, and I don't speak the language, it was a bit of a challenge. So, half the time you're thinking, what have I done? Your money's dribbling down a drain and you're getting offers. People are saying, oh, do you want to do your own chat show? Do you want to do this? Do you want to? I'm like, I can't. I'm stuck in my Wellington boots on the side of a hillside on this ruin. And then you're thinking, am I crazy? And I think that happens to so many people when they find themselves at a crossroads and then they start something new.
Do you feel that you attract, because I believe that you attract very similar people to yourself as clients or as people around you? The way you describe yourself, you're someone that you're one of those happy-go-lucky people, like lucky things just happen to you. Oh, I'm just going to be a model and then I'm going to be a producer. I mean, it just sounds like that. It's not like that.
What's the era? I think often people say that. People are shocked. I mean, I just went to India on my own. People are like, what? You went on your own? I'm like, why not? I went to a place. I wasn't hanging out backpacking in the street. But I think those times where I came from, there wasn't further education. Very few people went to university where I came from. They got jobs on the market. And I think we just did it. Your mum wanted you, get that one out of the house. You've got another load. She was looking after the babies. And I think that was a time, I think we were braver. I think today people don't have the confidence we had. I look back and I say to myself exactly what you just said. And I just became a model, but I probably got turned down by several agencies. I think it's not that I'm happy-go-lucky. I think it's that I don't dwell on the woman who said, well, we don't like your ears or something. You can't join our agency. Or, okay, well, I'll go to another agency. Somebody turns your book down. You go to another publisher. So you just have to try. But I think sometimes today you think everybody else is so perfect. Everybody else is so successful. That's one of the bad sides of social media, that all these young people are trying to compete at such a level that they just give up. They're just like, I don't know how to do it. And I think we just had a way about us in those days where it was just like, you have to eat. So you just get a job, go in, and if somebody says no, go somewhere else.
I don't want to categorize anybody, but whether you're a millennial or baby boomer, whatever you are, whatever age you are, it's more how you've grown up and what you've been taught. So if you've just been in the phase of surviving all the time without dreaming, without having that combination, you'll just be doing all the time. And for the young kids today, I know for my kids, they were going, oh, I want to be a YouTube star. And I'm going, yeah, for what? What do you want to be a YouTube star? For what? And they're going, what do you mean for what? And I'm going, well, for gaming, or do you want to be famous for inspiring people or motivating? There's a category for being a star. And a lot of the kids don't see the potential that they have in their lives today. So when these women come to you, and there's the simplicity, but also the authenticity that they see in you and in the space that you've provided for them, it helps them to open up because they've never had it before. Living in a life of mediocrity, it's like a black and white. And you offer them the color to bring them back to be able to design that, to be able to design their chapter. So you've just got me all excited.
Yeah, I think also having a mixture of ages is really great because we don't get so many 20-year-olds. Sometimes we get them because they come with their mum, or really, 30-year-olds who are the ones. I mean, 20-year-olds never know what they want to do. I didn't. It's a tough age. You're trying to find yourself. 30, you're starting to settle down a little bit, and they are having a tough time. But I think they've got a lot of advantages that we didn't have before. They've got the internet. How did we ever book a hotel without the internet? You just can't fathom it. And they've got all this stuff, but they've got to use it in the right way. So often I say, find a guru, find somebody. You want to open a coffee shop? Go and find somebody who's done it. And I say, could I have 10 minutes of your time? Because what I've learned, especially through interviewing people who'd made these great stories in the book of their own next chapters, nobody said, no, I don't have time to talk to you. Because people who are successful love talking about what they've done. There's a sense of pride. They want to share it. And, yes, I'm sure, if you called up Richard Branson, he might, sorry, I don't have time for that. But I doubt it. I think people want to share. So it's just having the confidence to ask. And that's what I think we have to get into people. Just ask. And if they say no, fine, move on to, there's plenty of people. So it's bringing that confidence back. And that's why I love having a 55-year-old chatting with a 30-year-old. In fact, I have a picture on my desk of two women we were on a hike in Italy at the retreat. And these two women are in front of me, and it's a shot from the back, and they're holding hands, and they're in an animated conversation, and they hadn't known each other 4 days before.
Wow.
And it was so beautiful. I just took a photograph, and there were two people from different countries, different ages, sharing in the camaraderie of really what women do so well. And women are, I like to say, women are wonder bras, uplifting, supportive, just like a bra, and slap each other on the back. It's so important, because you can't have confidence unless we all help each other.
Yeah.
And that's the key to success. And we're all tending to, I think at the moment, go into these little bubbles, bubble of social media. That's not real. It's great for some things, but it's not, it's a kind of fake world. And go and have a drink with a friend. Your kids will say, oh no, I Facebooked her. Like, it's like my friend in London, her mum is 87 and she's on Facebook. And she said to my friend, she says, I've got 583 Facebook friends. And my friend said, Mum, you don't have any friends. They're all dead. You know, yeah, I do, because they're on Facebook, you know. It's wonderful. And it's wonderful for an older person. She's involved in all these people's, oh, you know, Jilly's just had another baby. Who's Jilly, Mum? You know. And they have Facebook friends. She's finding it very hard. So I think every era, every generation has pluses and minuses. And mine was just go out and do it. And that's what I'm trying to say to people. If you want to start a next chapter, you have to plan and plot, but you've got to start. And a lot of people don't. They have this noise going on in their head of you're not pretty enough, tall enough, clever enough. It drags you down. And in the end, it's like, yeah, I can't do it. I need my paycheck. I've got to pay the mortgage. Well, of course you do, but there are ways to do it. So I wanted the book to have the real tools in it, which some of them are my tools. Some of them are these incredible people that I interviewed. Well, how did you do it? How did you start? There's one woman, she started a makeup line in her 60s. And when I interviewed her, she's in England. When I interviewed her, she was going off to Los Angeles the next day to put the makeup in the Oscar bags. And she designed her own website with the help of a 15-year-old boy next door. She got a company to make limited amounts. She used a part of her savings. She said, never at this age do you put everything in one basket, because if it doesn't work out, you don't have the time to make it back. You do in your 30s, but not in your 60s. And she's been really successful. She's written a book about it. So when you think about it, we're all going to live to a ripe old age. You fill in any of these forms of, you can cheat a bit, how much do you drink? But you're going to live till 85. And it's like, wow. So you're retiring? What are you going to do for 30 years?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are thinking, it's not about, I'm going to be the next Microsoft or I'm going to make the next fortune. It's about, now's the time. I want to do something that I want to do. You don't need as much money. It doesn't have to be about money. You could become a humanitarian. You could start, I have a woman in there who's one of the top online bakers in the world. And she did it from her kitchen. And I said to her, what was your investment? She said, a bag of flour.
You see.
And it just leaves me with goosebumps, because people think I can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
But there's always a way.
Always telling yourself stories, blocking. I was just listening to Marissa Peer, and I'd never heard of her before. And she fascinates me now, just the things and the examples that she was giving. One example that she gave was just how you watch a fly trapped somewhere and it's trying to get out, and how it just keeps pushing and doing against whatever, a window or something, trying to get out because it's trapped. And that's how we often feel, is that you keep doing, rather than just going, hang on a moment, sitting back and going, oh, look to the left. There may be an exit, or look to the right. And we always just see in front of us. Like you said, it's money that holds me back, or my kids are holding me back, or I'm too fat, I can't do this, or I'm too thin, whatever it is.
And some people, often it's something that happens, often something not very pleasant, like you get ill. So maybe you get breast cancer. You get sick, and what do? You say, if I get better, I am going to change. I'm going to do something that I want to do. Ask anybody who's survived. It's kind of sad that we have to wait for that moment.
Yeah.
I have a guy in the book who's a friend of mine who was a songwriter and singer in his early 20s. and then couldn't afford to keep going. And he ended up in the music business, but doing other stuff and everything. And he got prostate cancer. And he said, as I sat in that hospital, if I get through this, and he's in his 60s, he said, if I get through this, I'm putting my band together. And he did. He thought most of them would be dead, but they're all alive. Touring, he plays in libraries. I have another friend who's a surgeon, a researcher. She's an Irish girlfriend of mine, and she's been in medicine all her life. And she turned 50, and she knocked on my door one day, and she said, Holy Mother of God, I've made a decision. And I said, oh God, what now? She said, I'm giving up medicine. I'm going to sing. And she did. And she worked out, and she gave herself a plan. So sometimes, you see, I loved what she said, is that if you make a decision, like I'm going to do something, you don't have to do it now. So you can say, okay, in 3 months' time, I'm going to sort out the finances. In 5 months' time, we're going to decide where we're going to live. And she did. She moved to Princeton, New Jersey, outside New York. She put her kids into a state school, a really good one, in Princeton, which they have great schools. And she now plays in libraries. I mean, God knows what she earns. I don't know, $50 a night or something. But she got a band and she did it. And she's playing and she looks different. She looks so happy. It's not that she regretted all her years in medicine, but it was time. And I think we've got to listen to, like you say, you've got to allow yourself to be quiet, like I did in that Thai sauna, to let this in. And it can be very emotional. And I say to people, I get people write to me and say, I don't even dream anymore. My passion has dripped away. I've no vitality. And I say, you know what? It's there. You know, you had it when you were 5, and you probably had it before you got married and were taken over by work and mortgages and kids and stuff. But life tends to knock the stuffing out of you. So I say, you know, pour yourself a big glass of gin, lock the door, turn off the phone, get some pen and paper, and start thinking and doing stuff. Paint, sing, dance, stuff that you loved. And start, it may not happen in one weekend, but keep doing it and start to plan and then start to share. Start to tell people, I have this idea. And you'd be amazed because you think people are going to laugh at you. But you know what? Most people don't.
No, they don't.
Most people go, oh my God, good on you. You know, or can you do it? And, you know, and plan and have fun planning because it is very scary. Fear is the biggest thing that obviously that holds us all back.
Yeah, the saying, false evidence appearing real, fear, the acronym. So we're nearing the end of the interview, but I just wanted to ask you, just out of interest, do you sometimes look in the mirror and just go, fuck, Debbie, you have just nailed this, like just being a conduit and just like, oh my God, I'm just a vessel. I'm a vessel for all this change and reconnection to come through and to bring it through to everyone else. And fused with your creativity and fun and humor and laughter and making people feel, I think it's very difficult for women to feel at ease with being a woman and who that woman is. And you're helping them to just go, I'm actually all right. This is actually cool.
Do you know what? I think when I look in the mirror, it's more like, oh God. Great sadness, I think, is another line.
Oh, you shouldn't.
But I tell you what does make my heart sing. A few months ago, this property in Tuscany is 3 buildings, and the main villa is kind of where we are, and I can see what's going on. And we have a fire pit. And like I said, we do these forums. We start around 6 o'clock. And I'd looked out of the window to see if everybody was there before I came down. And I just listened to them laughing. And that's when I felt proud. And I thought, I'm going to cry now. It's like 18 women. They've got mothers who are aging or parents who are old. They're trying to get through life. They're doing all this stuff. Even the lucky ones. It is a slog out there. And you're listening to them just letting their hair down. We give them a lecture on the first day about put your cell phones away. They don't care. They don't bring them out. They're like, kids? What kids? You know? One woman said, oh my God, I cried all the way here because I have never left my kids before and whatever. And they're like, oh, I could care less. My Wednesday, whatever. Oh, yeah. And listening to the joy of them, like I say, they turn into 14-year-old girls. And that's when I'm proud. That's when I think, wow, each one of them saved up to come here and invest in themselves. And women don't do that, of course.
No.
You know, you feel guilty going to get a manicure, you know, like, do something for myself. And they've made that leap. And they're the same whether they're from we get a lot of South Africans, actually, Australians, Belgium, England, America, Canada. They're all the same. we're all the same. And even the age is the same. Culturally, things might be a little bit different. And like, oh, in South Africa, we do it this way. But when it comes down to it, there's the same fears, the same worries. We all hate looking in the mirror. Everybody, even the 30. You know, I had a woman, she was amazing. She had a underwear store. And she had she was a single mother with a 21-year-old Down syndrome daughter. She was on her own. And Victoria's Secret had just gone up opposite her, this massive underwear thing. And she said, I've had my store for 25 years. I know I'll be put out of business in the next 6 months. And she was like, I just don't know what to do. But she started to tell us about, she'd been fitting women for bras all these years. And she said, I have fitted women from age 12 to age 112. She said, every single shape and size of women. And she said, I will tell you, I have never met one who said, whoa, look at me, aren't I gorgeous? Not one. She said, I could have Giselle in my changing room and get that bra fitting on her. I don't like my back, or I don't like, she said, not one. So she was very funny. And one night somebody said, why don't you write a book about fitting women for their undies, you know? And one day she made us all take our tops off. My husband really came walking around the corner and we were all topless. But one day, okay, I want to see everybody's bra. And we were all wearing the wrong fitted bras. And it was so funny. Everyone was like, okay, no, yours is too saggy, yours is too big. So, like I said, I thought my husband was going to pass out. It wasn't a pretty sight. But she wrote a book about it. And that came from something that was awful happening to her and a really strained life with a lot of stress. But when you deep down, when you've had a few drinks, it's actually quite funny and something that we all hate. And I don't think there's a woman out there who hasn't come out of that curtain in a bra shop. We think, oh, God, it's awful. And what do? They make you lean forward. And, oh, God. She didn't think it was funny and emotional, but it is. And she changed her life. So that's what I love. So it's not really looking in the mirror. It's the listening and witnessing this magical place that makes people happy, and they can take it home with them and they can make change, even if it's eating better, eating more local, eating and seeing their friends. And many of them say, as soon as I got home, I got on the phone to friends and said, I'm doing a Tuscan night, come round. And all my friends said, oh my God, you look amazing, because life had come back into them.
Breathing that life in. How do you want to change or challenge the world doing what you do?
Oh, I think the world's a big place.
It sure is.
Time is enough. People say, why don't you do 8 days? I'm like, oh no, they'll kill each other. 7 days is just enough. I don't think I have the brains to change the world, and it's kind of sad. And I do like public speaking. I do quite a lot. And I do like to inspire people. And I think just my journey, if people can say, if she can do it, maybe I can do it. I start the book off saying, listen, to do an inspirational self-help book, I have no qualifications. I've never even read one. A 1-hour cooking class in Thailand, so I can make a curry, and that's about it. So I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor, but I have lived and I've walked the walk, and I've had many, many failures and made many mistakes, and I can share them and hopefully just give people the confidence to say, if you can come to Tuscany, great, but if you can't, here's a book that I think you can get some ideas, and it can maybe shake you up a little bit and say, I'm going to make that leap from the dream to the do it. So I can take the world on, like you said, one little bit of it, one woman at a time.
One woman at a time, yeah. Fill in the blanks for me. These are 3 of my main core values and what they mean to you. So creativity for you is?
Daily.
Oh, wisdom for you is?
I should read more books. I'm not terribly bright.
I wouldn't say that. Passion for you is?
Passion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I would say passion is all around us. It's all around us, and you have to open your eyes.
Yeah, very little of us do, yeah. Debbie, I want to thank you so much for being here with us, and I'm so tempted. I'm like, Mom, we're going to Tuscany. Well, actually, you coming here first, and then we're going to Tuscany. We're going to Debbie. We're going to go drink and eat.
Mum's probably saying, that woman can't even turn on a computer.
Who cares? Who cares? As long as you're changing lives, that's even more important.
Just making people think, that's all. You know, they have to do it themselves, you know. But yes, anytime, come out. It's a lovely place. You can probably drive from Austria.
I'll probably drive from there, exactly. And all the listeners, you can find out more about Debbie Travis and her book, Design Your Next Chapter, In the show notes, you'll find her social media, website, where she is, her favorite book or her books, a quote, or a favorite drink. We'll put that in there as well. And my request to all the listeners is to be the change that you want to see in the world and to do it fast and furious. And I look forward to hearing and seeing everyone again next week. And thanking again Debbie for trusting in herself and for honoring her talents and her gifts, and to trust her path to just go like in the sweatbox, oh, my life is just not happening, and move on to the next chapter and change other lives for women that really, really, really need to reconnect and change with themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you all next week. Bye-bye. Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.